All right. So as other users will continue to join, they will see the chat box as well. I will go ahead and disable my video, so that gives me a little bit more bandwidth. But feel free to activate your camera or you don't need to keep it enabled if you like. So just you can unmute yourself to ask any questions. All right, folks, my name is Martha Perez. I am with the Casas Technology Support Team. Always happy and ready to assist you. And we are going to go over the data submission guidelines today for this very important deadline that is coming up on tomorrow. So here is a bit of an overview of what we're going to be reviewing today, which is the requirements for the data submission for the end of the year. And all those are WIOA Title II participants. So we're going to review, and we're seeing that we have to prepare the data. And we're going to go over this. We're going to see the National Reporting System Data Integrity Report, which is required for by NRS. We're going to go over viewing the Pinpoint Summary Report and the end of year certification letter very quickly. We're going to see all the data submission elements, which are comprehended by the ones that you see on the screen. The employment and earnings follow-up survey, we're going to overview that, as well as the adult education and personnel information. And we're going to go over the quarterly data submission wizard and review the final expenditure claim report. I'm going to share this PowerPoint presentation, which I'm going to email to you at the end of this webinar. So for those of you who just joined, please go ahead and enter your name and email in the chat pod, as well as your agency's name. So I can, at the end, send you this PowerPoint presentation and you have it for your records. So at the end of the presentation, I'm going to do a live demonstration of the data submission wizard at the end, okay? All right, so an overview of these data requirements include the TOPS Pro Enterprise. Well, very important, what deliverables are due and when they are due. Okay, so the ones that we have here with the check marks are the deliverables due and on July 15th of 2021, which is tomorrow. So you can send these deliverables by tomorrow before midnight. You would be counted as received on the July 15th date. And these include the TOPS Pro Enterprise data, the NRS Data Integrity Report, or better known as the DIR. We have the adult education personnel information, end of year certification letter, employment and earnings follow-up survey, and the final expenditure claim report, which is not due on the 15th, but this one is due on the August 1st, which is in about 2 weeks. All right, so there's 6 requirements or 6 elements that are due. The first 5 are due on July 15th, and the final expenditure claim report, which is not due to Casas, but it is due to CDE. And this is due on August 1st. Okay. All right, how do we submit these deliverables? For the first one that we have here in the box, it's the employment and earnings follow-up survey. This is nothing for you to really send at this time and point, but before today, you must have already completed all the steps to electronically submit these or send out these follow-up surveys to all your exiters during your program year. And these would have been submitted electronically via TOPS Pro Enterprise. So that is for the employment and earnings follow-up survey. The end of year TOPS Pro Enterprise data, it's really nothing really to send us, nothing to send to us. As your data is already hosted on our online servers. So with just filling or sending out the the quarterly data submission wizard, you'll activate that, and it's like a trigger for us to go grab your data for analysis. So it's just basically entering all your data that you have for your entire student population for the program year of 2021 under the WIOA program. Okay, so that's the only requirement, to enter everything. That's a huge requirement. So in regards to the NRS Data Integrity Report, or DIR, the payment points report, and the end of year certification letters, these are going to be holding your quarterly data submission wizard by default. So by just activating and generating the quarterly data submission wizard, you will be complying with these 3 deliverables. Again, the DIR, the payment points report, and the end of year certification letter. These are going to be embedded within the wizard, so you don't really have to worry about printing out anything or signing it and scanning and then resend it to us, because we know that because of the pandemic, a lot of staff might be working from home, and you may not have access to a scanner or to a printer or other of those staff electronic devices that you may need at home. So we have embedded for this year, and I hope it keeps it like that for the rest of the from this point forward, and have the payment points report embedded in the submission wizard. All right, and we're going to talk about this a little bit later. Now, in regards to adult education and personnel information, you'll need to enter all your adult education staff, as well as their certifications they have achieved, if they are part-time, if they are full-time, how many years of experience they have, and all that good information about your adult education personnel. And I'm going to show you where you can do this in TOPS Pro. All right. All right. For those of you who have entered your name in the chat pod as well as your email, thank you so much. If you haven't done so, please go ahead and enter your email so I can send you this PowerPoint presentation at the end. All right. So now in the data review, how do you review your data? Well, this requires a big effort during the entire program year. So here is like a quick checklist of what to do in regards to before sending your final submission. All right, so we have the checklist here. What I would normally recommend to do is to review your class instances, making sure that they have an instructional program, like an appropriate instructional program in there. If you have EL Civics funding as well, and you guys do additional assessments, give out additional assessments to your students, you might as well revise the focus areas that you have given over to your class instances, as well as if you have any special programs selected in there, if they have a combination of ESL and citizenship, as well as with distance learning settings within the class instance that also need to be marked depending on each of the classes. We're not going to go really deep into the classes, but I'm just letting you know, giving you a heads up that this is what you must review in order to make sure that your programs are being counted for. Another point here is to review the update or daily hours. All the attendance must be entered accordingly, so your students also would be qualified for WIOA Title II, as well as for payment points. It's really important to enter every little amount of time they have, either 1 hour or half an hour. They all count towards the end of the program year, so you can have the benchmarks. All right, since COVID, right, that changed the life for everybody. So all of the classes now are being recorded as distance learning minutes. So unless you have returned back to your sites and are being or giving classes in the classroom, so make sure that you also review the distance learning minutes as well. Now, verifying all the assessments, especially those who have co-ops. If you have additional assessments, if you have EL Civics, then make sure that you enter every single additional assessment, whether they passed or not, in the system. That way you will be counting those into the payment points report. And then student information, we have this recommendation here to clean up duplicated students. We have a special report called Duplicated Students Report that you can run. And then ultimately, if you have any duplicated students, make sure that you merge them. That way it will only be addressing one particular student ID instead of two. And then if you have any students that have HiSET IDs or GED IDs, go ahead and obtain all of these and enter them into the database. Any questions so far? You can type in the chat pod, or you can give me a thumbs up or open your mic and say you're doing well. Good so far? Okay, thanks, Sharon. Thank you so much, Jody. All right, so let's go ahead and move on to the next slide. Here you will find a screenshot of how you will see the Data Integrity Report, or DIR. The National Reporting System, or NRS, acronym for National Reporting System, requires this data integrity report, which is basically like an inventory of your data and how or where you're going to get it. You can get it in TOPS Pro Enterprise by going to the reports menu under data management. That's where you'll find the NRS data integrity. Once you get to this page, you will open the NRS Data Integrity Report Setup Navigator. And on this page, I would recommend to generate it for the 2020-2021 program year, because right now we are on July 14th, and that means that we are in the new program year. So if you just simply would hit generate, by default, all reports show up to the current program year. All right, so just make sure that you select the appropriate program year. By default as well, you're going to find the four WIOA required or approved programs for WIOA 2. So these are automatically checked by default. You may also check other programs if you'd like, just for your own review, but in regards to reporting for WIOA 2, these four are the basic required ones. So please don't uncheck any of these reports. You may also generate the report for a specific class instance if you would like to only see that instance in the report for your internal review, as well as for specific students under in-program years. You can also run this report individually by one single student. If you go by in-program years and you will get a list of all the students who have data during that year. So you can uncheck them all and just check a particular student if you would like to make that review. But you don't really have to unless you want to. And please, the date ranges, keep them to the default, which should be NA. So we're going to basically generate this report for the entire program year since the beginning on July 1 until June 30th, which is the end. And just simply click on generate. And that will get you to this report. Well, this is a screenshot of the summary on the top of the report. This is not showing us the complete picture of the report, but this is on the top. So this information separates the item count of the eligible learners by number of periods of participation. So here is a note down here, like if the student has no hours, they will show up under the WIOA Title II learners, but that doesn't mean that they will qualify or will be officially in the period of participation just because they don't have hours of instruction. So again, hours play a very important role when generating your entire report and sending that over to the National Reporting System, which is the NRS. Any questions? So it says here, if a student has no hours and also no tests. which will, qualify them for WIOA 2 and will show up here under the WIOA learners, or under here, under the program year, but not necessarily under a POP or a period of participation. All right, so here we have a list of, this is a screenshot of some of the items that you can also drill down. The data integrity report has the same drilling options as the federal table 4. So you can hover the mouse over any of these cells. It will become red. It will kind of highlight, and you can either single click on it, which will give you the exact number. It looks like behind here, it looks like a 17. So it will show you 17 records of 17 students who are recorded to have missing birth date, or the birth date is outside of these ages between 16 years of age and 110, which will become eligible for adult education. You can also hover the mouse over the cell and right click on any of these cells to drill down to some other options, like the data integrity detail or the NRS monitor, as well as the assessments audit, or through any of these options that you see on the window. Now, items, here's a screenshot of items 1 through 10, which include most of the key requirements that are going to be valuable for NRS, which will also have some reasons, like drop reasons that will prevent some students from qualifying. Let's say that a student doesn't have gender listed in the database, then that will disqualify the student from earning the benchmarks. And this, again, is like an inventory of your data. So there's no perfect data integrity report. Trust me on this one. If they see some really good numbers, like all zeros, or for the ones that are employed, if they are 100%, you may have that 100%, which is very, very good, very valuable. But if you have almost all of them, all zeros, this is like a red flag for CDE, and they will review and probably look up much closer at your data. So make sure that you have entered all the information that you have. And yeah, this will show you, it's like an X-ray of your data, the DIR. All right, so these items are the ones that will qualify or disqualify your students. So here you have it. Another section of the DIR, which are items 11 through 16. These address specific conditions, such as like exit or periods of participation, which will count with the hours of instruction. And these include the latest items, or I'm sorry, let me back up here for a little bit. And I'm not going to go into detail into any of these new items. I just wanted you to see that these are the new items in the DIR. There is a really good, if you participated in the Summer Institute, there's a really good webinar that was given by my colleague, Nicole Jordan. And that includes or describes a lot of this information. If you would like to deep down into the data integrity report, I suggest that you would view that. It is on WHOVA, posted the recording there. And if you didn't join, don't worry about it, because we're also going to post or upload these recordings from Summer Institute on our website, or probably on our YouTube channel around mid-August. So those are going to be helpful to keep in mind and reviewing from time to time, or before the quarter submission deadline comes.
Martha, do you know the name of that particular, that you were talking about that Nicole did? Yeah, the webinar.
Yeah, it is called, let me give you here, the name is called Using the NRS Data Integrity Report. And let me post a link to this on the chat pod. Let me post a link. If you were able to attend and registered on WHOVA, you will most likely get access to this. To this webinar. Give me 1 second. Here you go. All right. So that is the recording for Nicole's using the NRS Data Integrity Report. And yeah, I recommend that you look at that. And then here, back to our slides. Items, these items, the last ones from 17 through the 22 items, these don't directly contribute, but they represent like other like key state and federal priorities. So these, I wouldn't worry too much about them, but definitely make sure that there aren't like big ranges or huge percentages, like anything over 50%, it would definitely take a look at into these items. And again, the recommendation for reviewing that webinar would be very, very awesome if you look at it. All right, payment point summary report. Where are you going to be able to generate this? Of course, in TOPS Pro Enterprise, it's going to be under reports, state reports, California, and then payment points. Here is where you're going to find this a very useful tool report to review before sending over your data. This is what you're going to see once you open up the navigator. Make sure again that you select the appropriate program year. You set it up to the 2020, 2021 program year. And again, the required programs funded for WIOA Title II are checked by default. All right, so when generating this report, I always like to advise to all the customers that I talk over the phone to click on report selection. Because when you do that, I recommend that you also check the payment points monitor report. As you see, when you run the payment point summary, it runs 4 reports automatically by default: the payment point summary, the summary audit, the data flags, and the data integrity, but not the payment points monitor. So the payment points monitor, I love this report because you're gonna see why. You're gonna see why in the next screen. So let me move along to the next slide. Oh, I went too far. This is a payment point summary report snapshot. Let me see here. Let me go back. My mouse is acting up today. So here is a screenshot of the payment point summary, which gives you a description of all the students you have enrolled in that program. Of course, they need to be complying with some drop reasons. If they have some drop reasons, they need to have like a complete data set, which requires, of course, a program enrollment into one of the valid instructional programs that we have mentioned before. They have a class enrollment in the class also has an instructional program set in the class instance. Of course, your appropriate funding has to be established. That way you can generate the report that the students have at least 12 hours of instruction so they can show up in here, and they have a pre and a post test in order to get a payment point. So some have completed NRS educational level, some have received HSC certificates or high school diploma, and others may have also received like payment points for additional assessments. If you have EL Civics, and if you normally give out co-aps to your students, or the citizenship interview test or reading for citizenship assessments, they will also show up here, or should be showing in your final payment points report. Okay, so on the next slide, we're gonna see that you can also drill down, as well as you did with the DIR or the federal tables 4. You can right click on it if you hover the mouse over any of the cells, and you can drill down to either monitor, student gains, or the EL Civics additional assessment detail. I recommend particularly doing the EL Civics additional assessment detail. If you have any questions about like why you're getting so little payment points on EL Civics or civic participation or citizenship preparation, go ahead and drill down to this additional assessment detail to find out more information about it. And again, you can hover your mouse and just single click so you can see who these 11 people are, or you can right click and find out more information. Okay, the payment points monitor report. This is the one that I love because, and I love recommending it to all of our users, because this one gives you potential payment points that you could be missing out on your regular payment points report. You might be wondering, why does this person not appearing if they did an additional assessment? Well, like if you see here, there's this little DR, which means drop reason. And it gives you a drop reason 15B. I don't know if this is kind of tiny, but I hope you can do it. You can read it. This says 15B. And this, if we scroll towards the right, we're going to see the student's name, their ID number, the instructional program that they're enrolled. And it also gives us a lot of options in here, like additional assessments, for instance. This one has a little asterisk there. Well, asterisks, they denote potential payment points that you could be missing out, but for a particular reason here listed in the drop reason lister, you're not earning it. And if you go to the 15B, and then by the way, the criteria is at the end of the report, which is on the next slide. So if we move along to the next slide, the asterisks again denote potential payment points that are not awarded due to not fulfilling specific NRS criteria. And if we look over the 15B drop reason here, it says that they have an incomplete civic participation outcome data set. What does that mean? Okay, if we go back to our previous slide, it means that our student here in question has completed an additional assessment, just one. If they had 2 or 3, depending on what the funding for that co-op was, it will be listed here as more asterisks. But here we have the benchmarking tests on the top, and you can see that there is a separation between the pre-test and the post-test. So this basically means that the student only has a pre-test. And unfortunately, the student does not have a post-test in their record. They have enough instructional hours, which means over 12. That way, you would be earning a payment point if the student had a post-test. Well, maybe the student tested manually. So if you happen to find a paper assessment for this student, by all means, I would go ahead and enter it. And that way it will assure me that the student will achieve another payment point by completing an additional assessment. Okay. The second student here, it says drop reason 02, which is the same drop reason from your data integrity report, which means less than 12 hours of instruction. And that is correct. I mean, for example, the student completed a G&H, which is a government and history test, but the student doesn't have enough hours of instruction, as well as the pre and a post test. So the student wouldn't be achieving the payment point until they fulfill any of these criteria. Okay, so don't forget the payment points monitor report. It's under the same payment points regular report, but you just have to check it. Unfortunately, by default, it's not checked, and that just leaves you out to verify and inquire the rest of the data. So payment points monitor, highly recommended. Okay, any questions? Or so far so good? Clear as mud? Okay, I will take that as a yes, so we can continue moving forward. Alrighty, oops, I scrolled too far. Okay, so now let's go into the technical part of submitting your data. We will first, before doing anything on the wizard, I go ahead and look up your adult education personnel information, which you're going to find under the organization menu, and then click on agencies. Once you do that, you're going to double click on your agency's ID number or name, and that will open up your agency information page. When you are on your agency information page, click on program years. Program years from the navigator on your left-hand side will give you a list of all the program years that you have entered data so far into TOPS Pro Enterprise. Pretty much basically since the beginning of the use of TOPS Pro for your agency. You may have been there already, or you may be new to your agency, so you're going to may see a lot of more years. But the one that we are interested in is to open up the 2020-2021, which we are reporting for on tomorrow. So make sure you double click on that particular program year, and that will open up. It will see like this. It has other information, but these are the 3 tables that we are requesting for you to please fill out. If you have, in this particular case, for my example, I have 5 teachers that are full-time. Oh no, so 3 teachers that are full-time, 2 local level administrative or supervisory in any of these functions, and we have 1 local paraprofessional, and then we have 3 local counselors. So make sure that you set them up in the corresponding bracket, like these unpaid volunteers. These counselors are unpaid volunteers, so I put them in here. 2 administrative staff, I put them under full-time. 3 are full-time teachers, and there's 1 part-time local paraprofessional. So out of these staff who are full-time and part-time, you're going to be entering their years of experience. So for teachers who have, in this case, I have 5 teachers in total for full-time. So I would be looking at 5 teachers in here under the full-time personnel, whether they have less than 1 year, 1 to 3 years, or more than 3 years of experience. You have to set them up in this teachers years of experience table. And then for my 1 local paraprofessional, she has more than 3 years, then go ahead and set them up here. If she's new, less than 1, depending on their time. And then for certifications, go ahead and do that as well. We should be looking the same amount of people here for full-time personnel, for teachers under the teachers bracket, and then their certifications. All right. Okay. That's where you enter the adult education personnel information. Now, the employment and earnings follow-up survey, you need to go ahead and prepare the end of year data by saving the program year 2020-2021 quarter 2 exit population. And you're going to use the NRS Core Performance Wizard on this that you're going to find under the Tools menu. Under Tools, you'll find NRS Core Performance Wizard. And that way you'll be able to run the wizard for the 2nd quarter. By this point in time in the year, you must have already run it. You could have run it. You had the ability to run it since the beginning of this quarter, which was April 1. So April 1 to June 30th, you had the ability to run it. You still have a chance to do it if you haven't done so already. So by all means, go ahead and run it. So now, which quarter are you going to run? Very good question. You may think that because we are in quarter 1 physically, you may want to run it for the 21-22 quarter 1, but that's not necessarily the case because we always go and look back for 2 quarters before. And the reason why we do that, I mean, this is just going a lot deeper into the employment and earnings follow-up survey, but we always, the system tracks down based on hours of instruction, the periods of participation. So if a student doesn't have attendance for 90 days or more, they will be automatically tracked by the system or marked as exiters, not really marked, but identified as exiters. So what we really want to look into is the second quarter of the 2020-2021 program year for this particular end of year data submission. Okay, so any of those people who exited in Q2, they will be marked as exiters, and these are the ones that you need to send out their employment and earnings follow-up survey, as well as to follow up with the ones that exited last year. So each student gets a couple of employment and earnings follow-up survey. And here is more additional information. Here are some guidelines to review the employment and earnings follow-up survey. So for this requirement, we have to send required surveys for students who exited again on the 1920 program year Q4, which was the ones who exited a year ago, and the program year 2021 Q2, which are the ones who exited 6 months ago or 2 quarters ago. Again, review and manage these quarter invitations. You can go to the records menu and you can find them under invitations or under survey responses as well. If you have contacted them or if they didn't respond, but you had 3 chances to contact them via the software, via the TOPS Pro Enterprise, to send them like 3 chances to send them SMS, text messages, and emails. After that, you would need to personally contact those students who don't really respond to that. And you can manually enter that information. If you have them on the phone, you can open TE and go to survey responses. Look up that student and double click on that record so you can click on the link to answer or enter survey as if you were the student. All right. Make sure you select the appropriate exit quarters or quarter to take survey that corresponds to these quarters listed in this slide. And again, a link to more information on the updated guidelines for the employment and earnings survey. All right, next slide mentions the quarterly data submission wizard, which will take care of submitting all these reports for you. We have made it so much easy now, and all you got to do is run the data submission wizard in TE, which you're going to find under the tools menu. By the way, again, all the wizards will find under the tools menu. So for the California WIOA Title II, we have the quarterly TOPS Pro Enterprise data, the NRS DIR, the payment point summary report, and the end of year certification letter. All of these which are embedded in the wizard. And then for CAPE, you have the quarterly TOPS Pro Enterprise data and the CAPE DIR. Again, here is another link for instructions on how to access this quarterly data submission wizard and how to activate it and to run it. Step-by-step instructions. Here's a screenshot of where to find it under the tools menu, quarterly data submission wizard. Of course, finish entering all the data before you activate this wizard. Generate and review the reports that we discussed earlier, the DIR and the payment points report. Review them before running this wizard. And if you need to make any corrections to the data, go ahead and feel free to do it. You still have until tomorrow at midnight. And then again, tools, quarterly data submission wizard, and you'll start running the wizard. It has step-by-step instructions, which you have a few screenshots in here. Make sure that the appropriate program year is set in here, the July 1 to June 30th. And then the end of year is the one required for this submission. You're going to be asked if you want to run it for CAPE, for WIOA, or for both. So if you still have some CAPE data to enter, remember that this deadline is not due for the CAPE until August 1. So you still have 2 weeks. If you still need to enter CAPE data, go ahead and just activate the WIOA one, or if you're well set, you'll go ahead and do both and just pretty much run through the wizard with these reading the instructions on here. You're going to get to a point where it's going to generate the NRS data integrity report. So you will need to certify that you have revised all these duties for WIOA, at least for WIOA, to completed the adult education personnel and teachers' years of experience, The DIR is all set, the payment points is hunky-dory, and then the core performance wizard, you are able to run everything successfully. If you would like to give us a comment, if you would like to, I don't know, tell us something about your data, you can definitely enter it in the comments box and then hit the finish button. And we're gonna go over this in just a few moments. And here's a note that says for quarters 1 through 3, there was only one submission per agency allowed, but this for the end of year submissions, you are welcome to enter it more than once. So if you're not able to enter it again, you can call tech support and we'll re-enable it for you. Okay, and we have the phone numbers at the end of the slides, so you know. Alrighty, so here on this next slide, we have a screenshot of how you can confirm your data submissions. When you have submitted your data set, it's going to give you a message saying you have successfully submitted your quarterly data submission, but how you're really sure and completely thorough that this went through. Well, go to your organization menu, click on your agency ID or name, and click on the quarterly data submissions from the navigator on the left-hand side. This is going to show you all the ones for the current program year. You may have to fiddle around with the filter if it's set to the current program year, you may not see anything in here, but remember that we want to look data for the 2020-2021 program year, so you may have to click on here. Okay. Next slide shows, oops, that went too far. Data submission confirmation emails. So once we receive the data, we're going to process it. And this, unfortunately, is not an automatic process. We need to review and annotate some information on some special spreadsheets that we report over to CDE. So you're going to get an email. Once everything has been processed and gone through, you're going to get an email that looks like this. This is an electronic receipt that we have received your data. And it will have the title of the data submission confirmation, and it has a receipt ID number. This will go to the primary contact of your agency. If you are the primary contact, you may be receiving these emails. If you are not the primary contact and don't know who that is, you can inquire by sending an email to contactinfo@casas.org. Or if your primary contact is retiring or has retired, you can also send any staff changes to contactinfo@casas.org. The final expenditure claim report. Oh, let me just scroll back here for a second. Yeah, I thought I had skipped one. Okay, so how are we doing? Is this a lot of information to take on? Or remember, I'm going to send you this PowerPoint presentation so you have this along with you to your records. Okay, thanks so much. Thanks for the chats. Okay, great. So now the final expenditure claim report, remember this is the final one that is due on August 1. So you still have 2 weeks to send out this one. But I would suggest start inquiring about it by clicking on this link for californiaadultedreporting.org/adulted. This, I do know that they require a signature, but if you have any questions, you would need to contact this URL that I'm posting here is for any technical assistance that you may need with your expenditure claim report. Okay, this goes directly to CDE. Awesome. All right. So here I'm leaving you with important links, including the ones that I initially posted on the chat box for WIOA Title II grant information, and also the follow-up survey information with as well as the wizard quarterly data submission wizard instructions and statewide and regional network meetings. Remember that we constantly have network meetings going on, as well as more professional development trainings. You can register for them on the CAPE website, and let me post a link here in the chat box. Give me 1 second to thought I had it here, but let me verify. California Adult Ed training.org. That is the website. So let me go ahead and post it right there, which is the one that you registered for today's training. And remember, folks, that our website, casas.org, contains a wealth of documentation. You can find any document that you may think about regarding data submission, regarding how to clean up your DIR. There's a lot of helpful resources there. So please don't hesitate to give us a visit on our website, as well as in our YouTube channel. The YouTube channel on our website is also a very valuable resource to look up past training recordings, as well as a lot of great informational videos. All right. And here is our Casas Technology Support Team information. So you can contact us. We're open daily, Monday through Friday from 6 a.m. to 5 p.m., except those major holidays. And there's the phone number. There's other emails for important resources. If you have any questions about deliverables or reports, you can send them to capm@casas.org or data@casas.org. And here there's CL Civics if you have any questions about co-ops, and then the CIT if you have questions about citizenship. Any questions you may have so far? Okay. All right. So I
have a
will
question.
take-
I'm sorry.
Martha, I have a question.
Yeah,
Oh, go ahead.
go ahead.
You go ahead first.
I have done the data submission. I don't remember the final expenditure claim report that I need to sign off on. Is that WIOA or are you talking about Kate?
Yes, that is WIOA funded.
Okay, but it's under the caladulted.org?
No. The California Adult Ed Training.org. It is, I posted that link on the,
Yeah.
chat.
That's
It
for
is
the trainings.
trainings, exactly. For any trainings, any regional trainings, any professional development trainings. But the final,
So the final claim, I'm just going to go into the WIOA portal and print that.
Exactly. Yes. And
Sign
you can
it in
use
blue ink and email it to our CDE consultant.
exactly. And if you have like questions about that, unfortunately, I won't be able to answer them because this will be all involving CDE people. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I just don't remember doing that. And that wasn't the superintendent that signs it. I signed that?
I believe that's signed by, by the administrator or the superintendent, most likely. So you may want to double check with your higher ups there and verify who is going to send that over.
Okay.
But it is important, and that's due on August 1.
Maybe once I see it, I'll remember. Okay, thanks, Martha. I do have a couple other questions, but if they want to go first, other people.
Sure, whoever would like to interject, no problem. More questions?
I think, yeah, somebody else had a question.
Yes, I did. I just wanted to know, this is my probably second time submitting data for our records at BPSOS, and I've been talking to Casas support. I have them on speed dial, and also Margaret Teskey, and also my CDE consultant. And I just wanted to make sure that, like, that not anything to do with COVID, but as a new person in the field, in this role, where I'm submitting the data, that if there is a mistake, that we have the ability to correct it and not just be that we have the ability to learn from it, rather, as I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Gotcha. Definitely. If you have a mistake on your data, if you are not generating the sufficient payment points that you should be earning, and your numbers for some reason look low, you're going to get we're going to revise your reports, and you're going to get an official payment points certification letter by my colleague Nicole Jordan. If you're the primary contact for your agency, you still have I believe 15 days. I'm not really sure about the deadlines, but 15 days or a month to contest those payment points. If you're not, if you're not satisfied with that amount, if you feel like you should be earning more, you can definitely contest those payment points. So you will get an official payment point certification letter after the fact that we have received your data, we have processed it, we have sent you a receipt. Then a few days later, business days later, you're going to get this official payment point certification letter from my colleague Nicole Jordan. And if you're not satisfied with those, I would highly suggest to consult with either our tech support department or your Casas program specialist to have your data reviewed. But definitely, I would encourage you to enter as much possible data as you have, hours of instruction.
Okay, so Martha, just a follow-up to Jody, the other Jody, her comment or question. I do remember what that looks like from Nicole Jordan, and it's really clear. It'll say, I do agree with my, and it has the number of payment points that you can check against your payment point summary to make sure that they match. And then if you don't, you sign, you check that you don't, and you just scan it and send it back to her. But I've never had where I don't, so I don't know what that looks like, the follow-up, but I know what they send you is very clear that you either, yes, confirm this is what it is or it isn't. But that's kind of what I had a question about, Martha, is on the data. So we're, feverishly trying to make sure our data is accurate. And we've run our NRS data integrity. And I see that, for example, I'm just going to say are past the HSE. There's 3 people that we have scanned that passed the HSE. But when I look in the payment point summary, I only see 1. And we have drilled down and we have figured out why that happened. But let's say we weren't able to catch that, and we submitted our NRS data integrity and our payment point summary, and they didn't match in that category. So, 12A passed the HSE, we have 3, and on our payment point summary received HSE, we have 1. What happens in that case on the Casas side in terms of how we're viewed for our data?
Well, most likely is that you're gonna get a recommendation from, again, Nicole. She's gonna probably spot that out. It is hard to go and review a lot of agencies, but she usually does that, and she would review the data and send you an email to say, it looks like you had some other students that got the high school diploma or high school equivalency. And we normally when you call tech support, and you have this discrepancy. That's why it's really important to review their reports throughout the program year with the DIR as well as the payment points. So if you have this discrepancy and you have doubts that why is that not appearing on the payment points, you can definitely give us a call and we can show you where you can edit this information. Is usually under the student records, under educational results, you would need to mark that as earning the high school diploma.
So in this case, we did do that, and because we weren't assessing, there's no pre and there's no post. So they're showing up in the data integrity, but only one of them actually had the pre and the post.
So in those given cases, for those who are, especially the ones who are completing the high school diploma or the high school equivalency, these students are not required to enter to get a pre and a post test by simply marking their level, their NRS functional level, either from anywhere from ABE 5 to ABE 6 at the beginning of their program enrollment. And then at the end, when you're exiting and marking them as their high school, they earned a high school diploma, you need to mark their ASC functional level as ABE ASC high completed. Let me show you.
Wouldn't it be ASC 6 completed? No?
Yes, ASC 6 completed. You are totally right. And let me show you here. I'm going to share another screen.
Okay, so I didn't realize that they didn't have to have the pre and the post.
Yeah.
Is
For
that
high school,
because they could have taken instruction with us, but taken the GED somewhere else, or why is that?
well, you would usually want to address those students who did receive the high school diploma at your local agency or high school equivalency. You would like to mark only those. If they received their high school diploma on a different agency, then you wouldn't be able to claim those benchmarks.
Okay. I'm not sure, but I know we went in and we went into the GED ID and verified that yes, they did earn a high school diploma.
Okay, sounds good. So we still have about few minutes left, 3 minutes. Let me go ahead and quickly go through. Normally, go ahead.
No, you're going to show us what we would do. I just don't want to hog up if there's other people have questions.
We can address yours at the end if you'd like. I can stay a little bit longer.
Okay.
I just wanted to show everybody, like, to quickly scan through the class instances classes by going to the organization menu, classes and instances. And once you are in the class instances lister, I would click on the more button on the top right, and click on child lister. This child lister has been a tremendous tool for me because I can look into class enrollments, and this will cut in half. The screen will cut in half and show me which class enrollments are there for any existing class. See? And I don't have to double click on any of the classes, so I can see what's inside, like class enrollments, class records, or tests. So this is a really nice tool that I like to use, and it's called the child lister, again, from the class instances lister. And another thing, well, the reports, you know where to find them under reports, data management, NRS data integrity, and then the state reports is under the California payment points. And again, I'm going to quickly show you where to run the payment points monitor. It's going to be under report selection from your navigator on the left, and check off the box for payment points monitor. Again, remember to select the appropriate program year and just hit the generate button. And lastly, our main topic here is the quarterly data submission wizard under the tools menu. This is going to allow you to submit all your data. Remember that my mouse today is a little bit clunky, so this going to show me the fourth quarter. Once I verify that the agency name is correct and the program year is correct, I'll go ahead and say next. And this will show me all the reports for WIOA. And again, remember that the slides have the appropriate settings in there in the payment points. Of course, my database is not really populated with a lot of data, so this doesn't really show a lot of information or nothing, but yours will. Yours will have all the summary tables and all the periods of participation, as well as all the items in your report. And then just clicking next until we finish all this information, all this wizard is going to allow us to generate the report and submit the data as well. Any notes that can be entered in here, and then hit the finish button. This will take a few seconds to upload all the files in the system, and the progress bar will stop working once this is done. And it will give us the ability to export the reports if you'd like and save them into your files or print them. And then by saying next, this will give you the end of year data submission certification letter, which you would normally download from our website, check these off and sign them, print it, sign it, and send it back via fax or email, but not this time. Because of COVID, we are accepting electronic signatures on this, so don't worry about printing it. You are welcome to print it if you want to save it for your records, or print it as a PDF so you don't have to waste paper. And then once you're done, just say exit. And how are we going to know for sure that our data submission went through? We'll go to organization and then click on agencies. And once you have selected your agency, double click on it. And from the navigator on the left-hand side, click on quarterly data submissions. That's going to show us a list of all the data submissions done, and including today's record. So any questions? Well, I officially thank you for attending, and I know your time is very valuable. So I am going to stop today's recording, and then we will address your own individual question, Jody. But for the rest, thank you so much for participating.